Hey, what's up? Modern Philosopher back again. I'm going to be talking to you guys about morals and ethics today. First 2 weeks I was talking about knowledge and education and entropy and extremes. And so each week I gave a definition of the universe in those terms. So the first week I said our universe was a kingdom of ends, right? So Aristotle said that you cannot understand something unless you know its cause, or in other terms, its why, right? And so the next week I discussed the universe as a kingdom of extremes, right? Everything has an opposite, and those opposites are constantly at battle with each other, yin and yang. They're always struggling, and you get constant change, constant entropy. I actually read a good quote today by Heraclitus. Permanence does not exist in the universe, only the permanent condition of change, right? So we have our universe, our kingdom of extremes, we have our kingdom of ends, and now today I'm going to introduce you to the kingdom of futures, or the kingdom of paths. And so by this is an existentialist point of view of society, and imagine you're walking on a path, right? Now, along this path you come to crossroads, right? A fork in the road. And at this fork in the road, you have to make a decision. So existentialists believe that you make the decision yourself. You have the free will to make that decision. And I'll discuss existential and free will a little bit. And so now, when you make those choices, morals and ethics come in on whether or not you should make the choices, right? So if you turn left when you should turn right, right? What is wrong and what is right? Right? That's where morals and ethics come in. They come into whether or not the choices that you make along this path are important, or are right or wrong. Sorry. And so that's our kingdom of futures. Our kingdom of futures is everything, all choices we make have and lead to future pathways, right? They lead in different directions, and it's the job of morals and ethics to decipher which of those paths is right. Which of those is the virtuous path to follow. So I'll talk about existentialism a little bit. It's really interesting topic, and well, actually, I put a picture of the paths on the back screen here. They're not showing up too well, but that's okay. So existentialism is the idea that you have free will and you can make your choices, and it leads to all sorts of ideas about God, and God puts humans here and he just leaves them here and they can make their own choices. They have the free will to make their choices. And opposing to that is a society where you don't have free will, you don't have the ability to make your own choices. So Nietzsche comes up with a really cool thought experiment, right? So let's say you've lived your life up to this point, and suddenly you are encountered with a demon, and this demon tells you that from now on you're going to relive your life up to this exact point over and over and over again, and nothing will change, nothing will be different. So this is his thought experiment, and it brings up the question of free will and existentialism, because when you live your life over and over again and nothing is changing, you're not making choices. The choices have been made before, and all you're doing is following those choices. So now, that leads to two different viewpoints. You have the question of whether or not you have free will, and if you have free will, what leads from that, and if you don't have free will, what leads from that. So I'll dissect this mental experiment, this thought experiment. So if you don't have free will, and you're living this life over and over again, what you do have a choice is how you go about living it, right? The choices are already made for you, but you can either say, oh, okay, well, the choices are already made, I'm going to end up wherever I'm going to end up, it doesn't matter how I act, or what I do, right? Or how you perceive the world that you're around. So if you go through the really crummy attitude, everything is going to be the same. So that's one viewpoint. And the other viewpoint is, well, the choices are made for me already, I can't really do anything about it, I'm just going to go in with an optimistic attitude. So if you don't have free will, you have two viewpoints. You have optimism and pessimism, okay? And you can see the world in either way. The only thing that you can change in a non-existential world is how you perceive the world. So you can perceive it in an optimistic way or a pessimistic way. And so that's where morals and ethics come in too. It's how you perceive the world. So now, in the alternative, if you have free will, you can either act in a way that is pessimistic. You say, all right, I can make my own choices. I can act poorly and I can act positively, right? And so one of the cool things, there's a Futurama episode, and I don't know if you've ever seen Futurama, but Bender, he's a robot, and robots notoriously have no free will, they're programmed. And so one of the things about this episode is there's a scientist, and he creates a free will device to give Bender free will. And so one of the coolest things about it is that when he actually implants it into Bender, he does something funky, and he doesn't know whether or not Bender has free will. And Bender doesn't know whether or not he has free will. And that's kind of mirroring the human condition, where humans don't know whether or not we have free will. So we have to make the choice of how we act regardless of whether or not we have free will. Because we really can't, we have no way of answering that question. And that's where morals and ethics come in. Because free will is blossoms the idea where you have a kingdom of futures or a kingdom of paths, and you can take whichever path you want to take. And now morals come into that, and they say whether or not you should take those paths. Does that make sense so far? And so it's really interesting. And I actually have another quote by Martin Heidegger. He's a German existentialist. He lived around the time of the World Wars and Nazism and Adolf Hitler. So it is only in full and uncomparison awareness of our morality that life can take any purpose of meaning. So you need to understand morality in order to come up with a philosophy of life, and that's just why this is an important topic. So that's the main gist of what I have to talk about today. But how morals and ethics relate to your choices is important, and I'm going to discuss that more in my later videos. I'm going to talk about action and reaction. I'm going to go into some Freudian secrets of the subconscious. I'm going to talk about how perspective changes which path you need to take, and lastly I'm going to talk about humility and virtue. Rousseau says one more thing. Men in a state of nature do not know good from evil, but only of their independence. So Rousseau is saying, well, we don't know right from wrong, but we know that they're independent. We know that there are different paths that we can take. So our kingdom of extremes is a thing, because we know that we can take one path versus another path. And if we assume that we have free will, we assume that we have the right to take both paths. But if we assume that we don't have free will, we basically assume that the path is chosen for us. And so with morals and ethics, we really have no way of understanding whether or not, of knowing for a fact whether we have or don't have free will. So when we come to morals and ethics, we kind of have to set that aside. It's like the thought experiment, right? We don't have free will. Assuming that we don't have free will, what do we do in the given opportunity? Right? How do we approach the world? How do our morals and ethics allow us to be perceived by society, and how do we perceive society through those morals and ethics? And so now I'll discuss a quick definition of what morals and ethics are. Morals and ethics are basically a societally perceived right and a societally perceived wrong. So as a society, you come together, and what is commonly believed as right is part of morals and ethics, right? And what you commonly believe is wrong is what people shouldn't do. That's where morals and ethics come from. So morals and ethics come from your community and where you're brought up from. And that ties into what we were talking about, what I was talking about last week about entropy and extremes, and how your perspective on the world is a product of where you were brought up from. And so as far as morals and ethics, where you are brought up from provides you with your morals and your ethics. You are a product of your society, and your morals and ethics are a product of your society as well. That's the basic gist of it. So a kingdom of futures is a definition of our universe, and that says that we are walking on a path through time, and we have decisions to make. And each decision has a right and a wrong. And morals and ethics come in whether to choose left or whether to choose right or whether to go straight. That's where morals and ethics come in. They help us make those choices. So that was today's video, today's daily enlightenment. Tomorrow I'm going to post a video with my good friend Alex. He's going to come and visit, and we're going to talk about morals and ethics as well. I'm a little behind schedule, so I'm going to try and post 3 or 4 videos today. So I'll talk about action and reaction, secrets of the subconscious, and the humility of virtue today as well. So thanks for watching. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to discuss more in depth all of the theories I talked about today in the next videos. I just really wanted to give an overview, a very broad overview of what I'm going to discuss, and so if anything is hard to grasp or it's not making sense, I'm going to go into it and go through all these topics in more detail. So awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.